So last week we told you about this affirmative action bill by Senator Dan Sullivan that appeared to be killed thanks to a legislative move done by State Representative Jeff Wardlaw in a committee room, and we played that video for you last week, and it's been getting a lot of traction. Apparently, though, we can report to you tonight that that bill is no longer dead, and it has actually been revived. This is a bill that would end discrimination when it comes to hiring practices that the state does based on race and gender and things like that. And so I wanted to reach back out to Senator Dan Sullivan, who joins us now. Dan, thanks so much for being with us. How are you?
Thank you. My pleasure. Glad to be with you. Glad our bill's off of the table and back on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I am too. I think this is a big deal, and I really think that, well, first of all, let's go through what happened. What was your reaction when you saw State Representative Jeff Wardlaw in the committee meeting last week, kind of doing the third base signals, the third base coach signals to get the bill killed or tabled, if you will?
Well, sure. Well, I think you covered it, but I talked with Representative Tosh early that morning and told him I'd like to move the bill to the deferred list so that we could work the committee and work the House, try to find out what we needed to do. And Representative Tosh agreed. And of course, when the committee met, as you saw in the video, Representative Tosh did as he had promised and tried to move it to deferred. And then I didn't hear about it till later in the day when they told me the bill had been tabled. So I went back and watched the video, talked to Representative Gonzalez, and we started figuring out what we needed to do to try to get back on the deferred list so that we could work the bill.
And so now that is the state of the bill right now. It has now been put back on deferred, which means this thing is still live. So kudos to State Representative Gonzalez for making that motion. I know he's the House sponsor of the legislation, I believe. But I also wanted to have you on because there's developing news here. There is an effort within government to try to kill this bill. And what can you tell us about that? What can you tell us about Central Arkansas Water?
Well, first of all, I want to say thanks to the committee for getting it off of the table. We had a lot of good conservatives on there. When they realized what had happened, then they, of course, when the motion came up, they voted for the motion, move it back on the deferred. But yesterday, I got an email from a employee from Central Arkansas Water who shared an email with me that they had received from a group called JEDI, and that stands for Justice, Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion. And that group is a part of Central Arkansas Water that kind of acted, I'm going to say rogue, in a rogue fashion, and sent these emails out to all the employees to try to kill Senate Bill 71. It's also happened with the Arkansas Human Resources Association, Society, I guess, of Arkansas, who has been vigorously campaigning to kill the bill. I spoke with one of their representatives, and when I asked him what if he had any questions about the bill, that I thought the Attorney General had reviewed it, and the Attorney General was okay with it, and did he have any concerns about the bill, I would relay them to the Attorney General. Well, when the bill got deferred, he backed off of that, and I contacted him this morning and hope to engage with him. Paul, when you look at the people who are opposed to the bill, everyone so far that I've talked to has been heavily involved in the DEI or DIE, as I call it, organizations, heavily involved in far left groups. And in the email that I got from the Central Arkansas Water employee, they linked to several Democrat groups, the Citizens for Arkansas voter group, they have a policy group, but they are all progressive Democrats. And that's who we're fighting against right now on the Senate Bill 71 side, to try to get the bill for people to understand what it does.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what it does is, it's a no-brainer at this point. And You know, it was interesting. I'm glad that that Republican committee, revived the bill, because I was kind of dumbfounded last week, saying, "Hey, how could the Republicans do this? This is something that you mentioned the Attorney General. Tim Griffin has said that this bill would put us back in line with constitutional principles, or closer to constitutional principles. You have the
That's right.
United States Supreme Court that's likely to go ahead and end affirmative action when it comes to considering college admissions anyway." But I want to put this email up on the screen from the Central Arkansas Water. Okay, this is what they said here. Good morning, CAW, or Central Arkansas Water. In an effort to keep all CAW employees HIV informed, which I don't know what that means. Somebody can enlighten me.
I have no idea what that means.
I have no idea what that means either. But the JEDI, okay, so JEDI, you mentioned, stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion. So the Central Arkansas Water Division has that's another question. What are they doing with a Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion team? But so that team, the JEDI team, would like to share information with you regarding SB 71. That's your bill, Dan. If you or someone you love is a woman, disabled, Black, veteran, Hispanic, or Latinx, which I thought we were getting rid of that word here in Arkansas. I'm pretty sure Sarah Sanders has done that. This bill will impact you and your loved ones. If you or someone you love is then it goes, this bill that would end affirmative action in Arkansas is now back on the deferred list of the House State Agencies and Governmental Affairs Committee. It will likely be heard very soon after the legislature is back in session, because we're on spring break right now. Then the descriptions here. This bill would criminalize any action by governmental entities that consider race, gender, ethnicity, and nationality. Not only does SB 71
Of course, that's just not true.
Well, of course, but I'll get your response here in just a minute.
It's just a lie.
Not only does SB 71 promote white supremacy, but it also attacks all currently protected groups, including all women, veterans, and disabled Arkansans. And then it goes on to lie more about the bill. Dan, go ahead and respond to this. What are your thoughts on this and the fact that we have Central Arkansas
Water of those are
lobbying
just outright
employees?
Lies.
Go ahead.
If you look at, if you put the email back up, you'll see where it says click here to read more. On number 4, if you click there, it takes you to the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation, and a wing of that foundation, or a part of that foundation, that is also heavily involved in the DEI agenda. And when you click on more of their information on that site, it's incredible how far left that group is. There's another group at the bottom of the page there. It talks about the policy. I don't have it in front of me. Maybe I do. About the, I'm sorry. Let me get my.
No, it's okay.
If you look at that email, it talks about a group that's going to be presenting the Arkansas Public Policy Panel. The Arkansas Public Policy Panel is also a left-wing Democrat progressive group. Not a center Democrat, but a progressive Democrat group. That's what this is all linking to. And when you click on that, it goes to a voter group. So it's highly politicized. Their goal is a further left. And when you look on the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation and you look at their mission and their goals, it's all heavily diversity, equity, and inclusion. Of course, the goal of Senate Bill 71 is strictly needs-based. And the information that's going out about the bill is so much false information in order to scare people. As you can tell in that email, it's a political strategy to try to kill the bill. And I'm going to be working on this. I talked with the CEO at Central Arkansas Water this morning. We had a very good conversation. We're going to work together to find out where this started and what their goals are. I look forward to working with them. I also talked to the Arkansas Economic Development Commission this morning, to the women and minority-owned business. They've been silent on the bill. So a lot of people say that this 71 will kill women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses. Paul, the women and minority-owned business of AEDC gives out no money. They do not distribute any money. They're only a networking group, and this bill would not affect them at all. And again, it's so disappointing that there's so much information out there that is just false information and intentionally false information. Not much different than what Senator Tucker put out a couple of weeks ago about closing the museums and the UAMS summer camp. All that's just false information.
Yeah. And to be clear, anybody that gets any federal contracts, this does not apply to them. There's a bill in there, so they're not going to lose
Doesn't apply at
money
all.
because of this changes to affirmative action. Central Arkansas Water, okay, is that a private entity? What's the relation? Is there a blurry line between?
Well,
Go ahead.
they are, and I'm not sure yet. That's one of the things I'm working on to find out what their status is. But they're clearly a public entity. They may be privately owned, but they serve the public as all of our water districts do. Now, whether or not they can lobby like this, I don't know. But we're working with attorneys to find out today.
Yeah.
We've FOIA'd and a FOIA for all the emails sent out by the JEDI group. They also do events for Central Arkansas Water. They hold events that educate people, I guess, it looks like politically. But again, we're going to find out pretty soon.
Wow. This really is a fascinating session of the Arkansas legislature. It doesn't sound like you're taking much of a spring break, Dan.
Not at all. I've been on the phone the last few days working on this. It's just incredible that we have groups like this embedded in our quasi-governmental agencies. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I've heard of many groups that are coming out against the bill, organizing against the bill, and as you dig down under the surface, you find out where they all tie to. The Arkansas policy, what were they called? The Arkansas Public Policy Panel. Look at the members on that panel. Look at the board. They're all Democrats. They are most all progressives, and they are all working together kind of behind the scenes in these quasi-governmental agencies to kill good legislation.
Well, we've talked about this before, but oftentimes when you have any entity that is existing off of, taxpayer dollars, they themselves, this goes for, executive agencies as well, specifically in the past, they themselves can be giant lobbying arms to continue the funding,
right.
At the same level or advance more progressive policies, right?
Yeah, and again, I think at some point we may involve the Attorney General in this. If they are lobbying to a great extent, if this is just a one-off, okay, we'll get it resolved.
Yeah.
But if there's a consistent activity by a group like this that engages with outside groups for political purposes to influence legislation, which they say they do, they admit that, then it may be something the Attorney General should look at, not only at this individual group, but other groups, and see how broad this is in our quasi-governmental agencies.
Yeah. Well, and they're doing exactly what the stereotypical left does. A Republican says anything about reforming anything, and they scream white supremacist. It's just not serious.
Yeah.
It's pathetic, actually.
No. And I'll say this for the Senate. The Senate does not operate the way you saw the House operate. If I have fellow senators that oppose my bill, they walk up to me and tell me, I'm going to try to kill your bill, or I'm going to vote against it. And I do the same for them. Apparently, the House doesn't operate like that, nor do these organizations like Central Arkansas Water. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on that when you dig below the surface and you find out, it's just, it's not an ethical way to operate. It's not a good, honorable way to operate. I look forward to meeting with members of the House. I look forward to meeting with other members of the executive branch to talk about what we can do, because I think the bill, it's a good bill. It's active in other states. It's been very successful to have things based on need, not on your immutable characteristics characteristics like your race, your gender, your color, your national origin. Those are just not what we should be looking at. I looked at on the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. You can look on their website, and you can look at the number of businesses that network there that are really well-to-do businesses, large businesses. And that's fine because they're not, quote, certified and don't take advantage of some of the opportunities offered by the Economic Development Commission. And I had a great conversation with the director this morning, just learning more about what they do and how they do it. And I think there's an easy way for us to work through and base their activities on need, not characteristics like women and minority-owned business or minorities. There's an easy way to do this, and it's the right thing to do. As the Attorney General said, it brings us closer in line with our constitutional principles, and that's what we should be about.
Thank you so much for all your work on this, Senator Dan Sullivan. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.